Adrian Scott. Scott.
Well, greetings and shalom. This is Adrian Scott. Welcome to Truth and Testimony, the broadcast. And the next in the video in my Israel series, this would be Arrival in Tel Aviv. And what you're seeing right now is a video. I mean, I had to get this video despite this nice gentleman staring out the window. I had to try and get something because this is like the first time I've ever seen Israel, and I just had to make an effort to get that. Interesting when we landed, in that we landed just out on the tarmac, and we have to get on what you can see is this little shuttle bus here, and that took us over to the main terminal. Now, the next picture in the main terminal, there's a funny little story that goes with that. And it has to do with our stop in Frankfurt, Germany, before getting to this point. So when we got to Frankfurt, Germany, we were short on time. It was a fairly short layover, really, and we knew we were going to need some extra time at the security clearance because they were just really going crazy on everything, particularly with the fact that Sukkot was coming up, this biblical feast. So there was a ton of people that were heading to Israel to participate in this. This is one of the 3 pilgrimage feasts where all the males are to go up to Jerusalem and celebrate the feast. And so they do. So we knew that security was going to be rough, and we're going through the Frankfurt airport, and we are looking anywhere for a clock. Do you think we could find a clock to save our lives? Nope. No can do. I don't know what it was. There probably was a clock somewhere, but we couldn't find one. Anyways, so we managed to get through all of Germany and the whole wait there and everything, and arrival in Tel Aviv at Ben Gurion Airport. And as soon as we get off and we're coming down the main concourse to leave, if you look closely in the picture, you can see the little white circle there kind of in the middle between the 2 corridors. That is a clock. It's like as soon as you get off and you start walking out, the first thing you see is a clock. And we were just like, yes, we're in Israel. They know how to tell the time. All right. So that was kind of the funny little story with that one. And needless to say, Kevin and I were quite happy to see that clock, as you can tell in this picture, and also happy to be in Israel. I mean, we have to be honest here. Anyways, there we are. And you can't go to Israel and not expect to find a 10-foot tall menorah. And of course, that's exactly what we found as soon as we stepped out of the airport looking for a taxi. You know, the symbolism is everywhere. It really is. And so I kind of joke around about it, but it's something that's very sacred and very important. So you'd expect to find it everywhere. Anyways, at this point, we're just taking our cab ride down to Bat Yam, which is like a southern district of Tel Aviv. And I had to take this video. First off, again, this is, impressions, first time being on the street in Israel. Everything's a first at this point for me, right? But I noticed as I'm recording this that really, I mean, this could have been like the highway coming out of Vancouver where I grew up, or anywhere in Toronto or in any major city in the US. I mean, you don't see a lot of distinction. And it just, I don't know, I guess it just kind of hit me a little bit at that moment that are we all so different? Are we really that different? And I think we're more similar than different worldwide. There's different languages, there's different food choices and clothing styles, but ultimately we're all people. We're all children of God. So that just kind of stood out to me. You can't possibly take a video out of one side of the cab and not take it out of the other side. So there's me doing that. So the next morning, we get up. Of course, our time schedules are all over the place. So it was, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that. But as soon as sun breaks, we get dressed and we head out. And one of the first things that we encounter is this lovely "I love Bat Yam" sign. So obviously there for photo opportunity. So how could we not make a photo opportunity out of it? There I am. We also found something similar in our arrival to Jerusalem, but you'll be seeing that later. Anyways, our Airbnb was, we intentionally designed it this way, but our Airbnb was right on the beach. You walk out of that apartment, as soon as you go out the front door, there's a little courtyard area, and then from there, it's a couple of steps down, and you are on the beach. And so that's why you get a lot of footage of us on the beach. But we also, our focus of being in Israel was to go to Jerusalem, not Tel Aviv. So if we were in Tel Aviv, which we wanted to do as well, the main reason for that was we wanted to spend our time at the beach. First time I had ever seen the Mediterranean Sea, and you're going to see some more firsts with that coming up in a second here. But yeah, so you'll see a lot of footage on or near the beach, although we did wander inland a little bit, and you'll see that in a few moments. But yeah, so this was just getting a panorama, one of many, of the beach. And if you notice that sand, there's a couple of strips there. It looks very smooth compared to the rest. They actually have vehicles that go by and groom the beach. Like each morning they do this. And all of those red things you're seeing out there are little garbage receptacles. So yeah, here's the boardwalk, just a few paces away from where I took that video. Getting a little bit more of the beach. And there you can see more of that part where it's already been groomed by the vehicle and part where it hasn't. But they would do this every day. And basically that building you're looking at in the center of my shot is more or less, that's where our Airbnb is. Just tucked right behind that, actually. One other thing that really stood out was there were these wild cats everywhere. And if you really look carefully in this picture, you'll see, I don't know, it's probably about 10 cats just in this one frame, which is why I kind of snapped that one. And apparently, as we found out by talking to one of the locals, there was a reason for this, that at one time, Israel or Tel Aviv had a rather significant rat problem. So their solution was to just bring in a bunch of mousers and bring in a bunch of cats. And that dealt with the rat problem. And frankly, I think I'd have to agree. I'd rather have a bunch of cats wandering around than a bunch of rats. But it was really neat because everywhere you'd go, you'd see food had been left out for these cats. So although they were all strays, they were not neglected. They all looked relatively healthy. You could definitely see there were some injuries on some, so they, they're out in the wild and they would do a bit of their scrapping and stuff. But for the most part, they all looked in pretty good health, and you could go by a lot of people's homes and you'd find a little food dish sitting outside. But even here on the boardwalk, there was little piles of food and they had little water things put out and stuff. So just good to see, And there's one of those firsts I was mentioning. This is me for the very first time with my feet dipped into the Mediterranean Sea. And boy, oh boy, that water is warm. It's like a heated pool. It was really something. And that sand is like powder. It is so fine. Oh boy, that really jumped out at me. Like where I'm at, most of our beaches are extremely rocky with algae and moss and all this other stuff. So quite a difference. Another panorama. This is actually from that courtyard area of our Airbnb. This is a little further up the walk. We'd gone for a stroll. We were making our way into town a little bit at this point, but had to get another couple of pictures here. And, you can't do one direction without doing the other. You can see a little bit of the row of buildings along the sea walk to the right there. Now, this is another thing that really jumped out at me. They have some incredible children's playgrounds They are very elaborate, huge, just much bigger than anything and in better condition than anything I have anywhere near my place. And plus with all the sun and heat, they all have these shades over them, which really gives it quite a neat visual flair. You know, it's there for a reason, but it looks good too. And there's a shot here where there's one, it's just kind of an open courtyard again. A plaza almost, and just the way that the sun was cast in the shadows and everything on the ground, that just looked very artistic to me, and I needed to get a photo of that. So here we've wandered a couple blocks in. Actually, I think that's the beach straight ahead there, but just to get a look at city proper, as it were. And one of the first things I noted wandering around was a real collage of old and new mixed together in just about everything. And as you look, I mean, you can see it. Old buildings, new cars, you know, old stores, new stores. Just, it was quite the thing to see that. A real mishmash of old and new everywhere we went. And you can see a little shot of the train system there. We rode that a few times. That was kind of neat. Now, this is another little interesting one, because when we got there, I fully anticipated that, you know, we were going to run into some Western-based businesses, right? And I kind of thought, my expectation was that the first English thing that I would find in Israel would be a McDonald's. And in fact, we did see some McDonald's advertising signs. But as we're walking down the street, lo and behold, what's the very first English business that we see? Papa John's. I don't know. That jumped out at me. It's a random picture. I just had to throw it in there just because that's not what I was expecting. I might have guessed a bunch of things, Coca-Cola or, again, McDonald's or something like that. But nope, Papa John's. So that was kind of cool. That happened. Now, at this point, this is the next day, and we were going to make a very long walk over to a district called Rishon LeZion, where there was a particular museum that, well, both Kevin and I were quite interested in seeing it, but it was really something special for him. And yeah, so we discussed different ways of going about it, but we like to do things on foot, especially Kevin. He's more of a walker than I am, but we opted to say, okay, well, it's a long walk, but I think if we take little breaks here and there, I can manage it. What I failed to take into consideration was the 30 plus degrees with this brutal humidity. That just, oh boy, did that knock me for a loop. By the end of that day, I was not doing so good. But anyways, this was the beginning of the walk. Not too far from our Airbnb. And again, here's another thing with you can even see old buildings, new buildings, but lots of construction. That's another one, all over the place. Lots of construction and lots of car horn honking. That's another one I'm not used to where I'm from. But yeah, just this big row of buildings. That's another one on Vancouver Island where we're at. There's actually like bylaws and stuff in how tall buildings can be made for different reasons, and so we don't get big skyscraper. I won't quite call that a skyscraper, but we don't get tall buildings like that where I'm from. This was fascinating. So wandering down the street, we're just on a public street, traffic's going by like crazy, and I stand there and I'm looking at this and I'm like, is that an olive tree? And get a little closer, and lo and behold, if you take a close look there, you can actually see that there's some olives on there. And yes, it is in fact an olive tree. And more than that, these olive trees are like everywhere. As we continue walking, you can see in this next picture, all down the street, that's all olive trees, all of those things. That's another one that really jumped out at me that I wasn't expecting. And of course, I mean, if you read your Bible, you'll see those references to the olive trees quite frequently, you know, amongst other things, but olive trees often come up there. And so it was just one of those small surreal moments for me to just see this olive trees all the way down this public street. It's not even like it was in a park or a historical area. This is just a regular public street and olive trees all the way down. This was just, we found this, and it's kind of like our I Love Bat Yam thing. It just looked like a great photo op, so yeah, we had to get a couple of pictures in front of that one. At this point, I'm not completely dead yet. I still have some gas in the tank, but you don't see it, but the heat's hitting me at this point. Yeah, that was a hot one. And I think all said and done, it was about 4 hours of walking to get over to Rishon LeZion. About 4 hours of walking. At one point, we're on what was close to being a highway, super busy, major shopping area behind that, little strip mall effect. So after we had done all this, and you'll get a little story about it in a moment here, because I've included a video clip. But we get back, and sun's going down. My feet are absolutely killing me. So needless to say, we went out to the beach because we wanted to, if we were in Tel Aviv, we wanted to be at the beach. So we went to the beach, and that soft, powdery sand and that warm Mediterranean sea, boy, oh boy, did that feel good on my poor aching feet. I just have to say that. But in this particular clip, yeah, I just had to get it here. I had a picture of me in the Mediterranean, my very first video of me being in the Mediterranean, and just had to go dip my feet in there. As the sun's setting, get a little bit of a silhouette effect in the shot. At this point, I'm just trying to sort of center myself in my own camera shot. But I am enjoying that smooth sand and warm water on my tootsies. That is for sure. There's the pose. I really didn't know that anything like that would ever happen for me, so what a blessing of an opportunity, and I have to thank Kevin and others for just, allowing this to happen for me. It was quite possibly a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I hope not, but who knows what the future holds. But still something that was extremely, extremely profound to me. This is next morning, and there was all these kites being flown in both directions, up and down the beach. So this is one side, and then looking down the other direction, there was even more down that way. An interesting note is way, way down that beach. I'm not even sure if you can quite see it down there in the far end of the horizon, but basically that's where Gaza is. Was right along that beach, right down along that beach. And there'll be more stuff about that coming up in a later video. So this here, I have to admit, was my absolute first attempt at a time-lapse video on my Canon M50 Mark II. And I think it did all right. I wanted to get an effect of a sunrise from the beach in Tel Aviv. And that is what I accomplished. Again, really cool. I think you could see the truck going by doing the sand grooming. But again, all those red bins being garbage containers. And it was fairly clean. If there was one thing I noticed, that a lot of people there smoke. I think that might be a cultural thing. And I don't see nearly as many people around where I live smoking, but there was. And therefore, you did see a lot of cigarette butts in the sand. Good morning, Shalom, Boker Tov, from Tel Aviv here, Bat Yam district of Tel Aviv. We are about to be departing today to make our way over to Jerusalem, getting on the train and taking the trip out there. So this is going to be it from here, but I just wanted to do a quick update video and let everyone know that, yeah, we're here. We've been doing things. We missed out on the one museum we wanted to go to. We were very much looking forward to seeing that. Unfortunately, we showed up with just about, well, actually it had closed about 5 minutes prior to us getting there. So yeah, that's kind of the state of that one. Although it was really funny because it was a very long walk to get there. We walked it, and I was extremely tired also with the heat and everything. It just really takes a toll on you. But I needed to sit down, and we were very hungry. And my friend who I came with, he was very much wanting a falafel. Like, he's not asking for a lot, but he wanted a falafel. So I find a little chair to sit down because I'm bushed. And we look at the sign on the building that we're right beside, and I said, I think that says falafel. So we went and got 2 amazing falafels. They were really, really good. And we were trying to figure out how to get back to the hotel because it was such a long walk. It's like, there's no way we're walking back. Also, right there beside the falafel stand was the taxi stand. So we just grabbed a cab and came back to the room, kind of settled in. I've got a little bit of pictures and videos on that stuff, more of the beach and stuff. But really the primary focus of what I wanted to do with pictures and videos was going to be in Jerusalem. So that's sort of what I'm saving a lot of this for. But anyways, having a short update. Currently, my friend is, I don't know if we can see him, but he is a little head bobbing in the water right around there. That would be him right there, going for a little swim. Just enjoying the morning. It is really early this morning. It might be around 6:30, but like the time difference throws you off for sure. And we're just still trying to get kind of used to that. But at any rate, I don't think I'll drag this on for too terribly long. Just to get a little bit of scenery in the background of me while I'm standing here. So again, this is the Bat Yam district of Tel Aviv, kind of the southern part of Tel Aviv, and we'll be making our way to Jerusalem in a couple of hours. Gonna have some breakfast and go head over for the train. So until then, you know what? I think I'll leave you with a good panoramic shot here of what we're looking at. And that right there is the building that we are staying in. Sorry for the interruption. Anyways, on that note, there we go. The next video in the Israel series. This is I called it round 1 in Tel Aviv because we kind of did Tel Aviv, then to Jerusalem, and then back to Tel Aviv. But yeah, round 1 in Tel Aviv. We had a lot of fun. The language thing obviously was tricky, although a lot of people that you run into there, I guess if you're kind of under a certain age, they're at a point where they would teach English and Hebrew in school. So most people at a certain age level had at least some English. And so we were able to interact, at least loosely, with most people that we came across. And there were a few that were very fluent English speakers, all spoke Hebrew. Now, for both Kevin and I mean, we got very passive conversational Hebrew. My biblical Hebrew is probably better than my conversational. In fact, I shouldn't say probably. My biblical Hebrew is better than my conversational Hebrew. But I do know a couple of basic greetings and some essential words and stuff like that. So we're not completely in the dark. And also we did have Google Translate, which we used quite a bit. So we know enough in Hebrew, and we know the Hebrew letters that we could look up words and we could figure things out as we went, but it was slow going. Hence that thing with the falafel stand. We kind of look at that word and it's all in Hebrew, but we're like, I'm pretty sure that says falafel. The taxi stand was a little tougher, but we figured that one out. Anyways, I'll wrap it up there. Thank you for checking it out. Please give the video a like, share. If you have not done so, subscribe. And if you do, hit that notification bell so that you get alerted as all of these videos are going to be dropping, probably in a pretty short span of each other. Until then, I just wish blessings to all of you in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus our Messiah. And I say bye for now.
You've been watching Truth and Testimony, the broadcast. If you have a comment, please leave it on the bottom of this video or email us at truthandtestimonyemail@gmail.com. Again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Truth and Testimony, the broadcast, is not affiliated with Truth and Testimony magazine.